Hello.
It's been a long time, right?
Yes. How are you? Good to see you again.
Yeah, so happy to see you again. Everything is okay?
Yes, everything is
You're
okay
doing
here.
great? Great, super. So today, Oscar, unfortunately, I'm having a meeting, so I will not. Sorry.
Mute.
Voilà. Sorry.
We have the live streaming in the background, so
On
that's
YouTube.
why.
Yes, no problem.
So unfortunately, I will not be able to make it today with you, Oscar, but
Yep.
you'll be in good hands with Farah. So Farah will be here with you to moderate the session and to manage all the audience, maybe the questions. So have a good session, everyone.
Yes.
And I'll be watching it later on, I guess, because it will be recorded.
Yes.
And the topic is really interesting for me, for our job in Smart Capital. So I think I'll be the first one to watch the recorded video. Okay?
Okay, great.
So have a good session.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.
We'll start with we start now. Salma is coordinating with the team to launch the live.
Yes, so I think that in 5 minutes, right?
In 5 minutes, we can start, yeah. Donc, je t'envoie un thumbs up. In 5 minutes. Okay, good. In 5, we can start. So what we will do, I will introduce you briefly in what we are going to do today, and the floor is yours, and I will be in the background for questions or to moderate to anything else, okay?
Okay, yes, also for you to know that
Yes.
I will make like around the middle of the presentation, I will stop there just to check if there is any question coming from the audience, and then we
Okay.
can also have more questions by the end.
Okay, so we have one in the middle, mini
Yes.
question Q&A in the middle, and then
Yes.
one at the end. So I will manage to gather questions if we have until the middle and at the end.
Yes, okay.
Okay. So hi again, Oscar. I think we are good. We are live on the Facebook page. Thanks again. I think this is the third or fourth time that we have a session with you for Ins and Out.
Yes.
So just a reminder, Ins and Out is a program operated by Smart Capital and is in partnership with Expertise France through the program Innovi. And its purpose is to present and to offer webinars and workshops to SSOs in Tunisia. So today we have Oscar from Startup Commons. The floor is yours, Oscar. I will be in the background to help out with moderating the session and to bring out the questions if there is any. So here you go.
Okay, thank you so much, Farah. Thanks for the presentation. So let me. I think that I cannot share my screen.
I will make you co-host. I think you are co-host now, and you can share.
Okay. Panelist. Okay. Okay. So I guess that you can see my screen right now.
Yes, all good. Yeah.
All good. So let's also make it full screen. And let's get started. Okay, so thanks so much again for the introductions, and thanks a lot to Smart Capital and Expertise France for inviting Startup Commons to take part in this webinar you have organized for the different support organizations and ecosystem builders supporting the Tunisia ecosystem. My name is Oscar. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Startup Commons, a company based in Helsinki that mainly focuses on providing the right answers for the different ecosystem actors operating in the startup ecosystem. And besides the training and consulting services that we offer to feed our customers with knowledge to help them make better decisions for ecosystem development, we also develop and implement digital solutions to provide a truly 360-degree view of any ecosystem by establishing an ecosystem architecture that enables ecosystems to capture and use data to improve entrepreneurs' journey and related supporting services. And in the context of this webinar, I'm here to talk today and share with all of you the main international standards around incubation and acceleration programs, with the target to provide you all with enough information and understanding to help you operate those services that are, I would say, really important in any ecosystem. But also say this, what I'm sharing here today is basically my personal view and experience working with many ecosystems all over the world. And of course, this presentation doesn't seek to offer like a prescriptive method for running an incubator or an accelerator. This is basically my own views, and it is, I would say, the beginning of your journey by basically to continue learning and researching about these topics. And definitely, if you are looking for more specialized organizations around incubation and acceleration programs, then you should definitely look at these three organizations. So in Vaya, which is basically a global non-profit with over 1,000 members that lead entrepreneurship support organizations in 30 countries and serving a diverse group of entrepreneurship centers, program managers, directors, and policymakers. And one of the key services is the Entrepreneurship Center Management Certificate, which is the premier industry credential for the staff of incubators, accelerators, co-working spaces, small business development centers, and other similar entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship programs. Then we have also UBI Global, and they basically match corporations and with incubators, accelerators, and startups. But they also have the world benchmark study to find common traits and identify best practices to help business incubators and accelerators to improve their programs and become more attractive to startups and increase their overall efficiency and ultimately the ability to attract investment. And last but not least, we also have Nesta in the UK. So it is an innovation charity with a mission to help people and organizations bring real great ideas to life. And one of the key areas where they operate is economic growth. And they usually publish regular research papers on how innovation can boost economic growth. So these are like really trusted players where that will be very helpful for all of you to continue knowing more about this topic. Okay, so these are again key reference for you to expand the knowledge, and for the purpose of this webinar, we are basically covering today the following topics. So first of all, we will go through some definitions to help you understand the basics around incubation and acceleration programs. Then we will cover best practices for incubation programs. We will also cover best practices for acceleration programs. And then we will try to look at things that I would say are outside of the standard or that are really new, specifically on the digital side. And finally, we will have like Q&A from the audience. Okay, so then let's get started with some basic definitions. And in order to bring a more clear understanding, let me also check this. Okay. Okay, well, it doesn't go. So, and in order to bring more clear understanding about the position of the incubators and accelerators in the startup journey, so let's use the startup development phases as a global standard framework to explain the whole innovation process, from idea to product to growing business, and from talent to real organizations in balanced manner, identifying the key factors for the different phases and helping to communicate and plan the services and support functions that have to be available in your ecosystem to develop startups in a balanced manner. One of the key aspects of this framework is that it also brings the two dimensions that have to be considered when building or supporting a startup. In the top side, so here, basically we have the dimension around developing the business idea into a service product and ultimately into a business. And then on the other hand, in the bottom side, we have basically the dimension to convert from talent to build the co-founding team and then into a scaling organization. So the key here is that those two different dimensions need to be hand in hand in balance. If these are not offset or not receiving enough support on the other side, it creates, I would say, a big problem potentially in the future. If either side goes too far, too fast, that basically increases the likelihood of failure of the company. And therefore, it is very important to develop the innovation and the team in full sync. And when looking at the startup functions needed in the ecosystem, then this framework is also very powerful and useful to communicate the balance between public services or publicly funded support provider, which tends to focus in the earlier phases, while private and for-profit type of service providers are focusing more here, like on later phases of the journey, where normally the business or the startup is starting to have more clarity, shape, and ability to also to pay more for these services. So therefore, with this understanding of the startup journey, then I would say that we can conclude that an incubation program operates between the phases -2 and 2 to assist entrepreneurs develop ideas from inception to initial market validation, but also to help build a stable and committed team around the business idea. So then we can say that an incubator is, I would say, a unique and highly flexible combination of business development processes, infrastructure, and people designed to nurture and grow new and potential startups by supporting them through early stages of development and change. And where the main, I would say, outcome of the incubator is to produce a committed and balanced co-founding team with shared vision and attitude. The team also has to be able to develop the product or service, like like a minimum viable product, without dependency of uncommitted external resources, or already having the initial product or service in place. There should also be in place like the shareholder agreement between the co-founders, including milestones, committed time and money use for minimum 3 years with vesting terms, and also with all the trying to clear all the intellectual property rights. And what type of incubation program we may find? So many incubators are basically run by universities or have academic affiliations. So some programs work with university students, while others accept cohorts of young companies. Then we also have non-profit development corporations. So both non-profit and government agencies use basically incubators to stimulate economic development. So these programs may specifically accept companies geared toward public welfare. And then we also have for-profit property development ventures, like larger companies or corporations to develop many incubators for various purposes. So these programs may be an investment opportunity or a way to fund subsidiaries, develop technology, or find partnerships. And then we also have, as another type of incubation program, we have the venture capital firms. So some venture capital firms establish incubators as an investment opportunity mainly. So these incubators may invest in startups in exchange for equity, or offer funding further along in the program. So in general, most incubators are looking for basically for great ideas and startups that can grow over a few years. So many startup incubators focus on helping you build a business model, and others seek a fully completed business plan from applicants. Also, some incubators are tied to particular industries or academic programs. So in these cases, they look for business ideas and growing companies that serve the same field. For example, An incubator funded by a hospital will look for companies in the medical or pharmaceutical industry, and other programs may seek a general population of companies across many industries. And also some incubators, especially the non-profit versions, serve also particular groups. Like, for example, some may focus on women-run businesses or university students, or others take also applicants from across the country or even internationally. And then from the entrepreneurial perspective, I would say with so much variation of incubators and how they operate, it is very important to consider which is the right fit for them. And as an entrepreneur, you may be looking for mentorship or affordable office space, and also the type of support you need. If you are looking for example, for seed funding, then it's important to know that there are not too many incubators providing, for example, equity investments. And also, depending on your industry, it can be also useful to work with coaches who have experience in your field, and also you may want to look at also the alumni network and also related success metrics. And here we have like some examples of incubation programs that have been ranked, for example, by UBI Global in the World Ranking report in last year. So these are, like, for example, 3 that are really in the top 5. So the DMC at Ryerson University in Toronto, the Just Delft in The Hague, and also the Royal Scientific Society. So personally, I have been visiting, or I visit the first one, the DMC in Toronto many years ago. It was like in 2016, and really I could feel there the kind of right atmosphere coming from many angles. So I got the feeling that the staff managing the incubator was really professional, with a lot of understanding and a lot of also expertise at ground level about what is needed to develop a company or a startup. Then it was also really nice to see, like, how the space itself was really well distributed. So there was like this kind of right combination between open spaces and then more like, offices and things like that. And it was very well also integrated with the university. So then you have the feeling that there are always many people going around there, and it is quite easy to basically to find connections and so forth. And actually, one of the things that took my attention was also one of the services that they were providing around how to make or how to help startups to make more sales. So basically, that was something that I haven't seen too much in other ecosystems. And then when it comes to the acceleration program, we can also agree that an acceleration program operates between the phase basically 1 and 2, right after the incubation process, and once you have demonstrated that your validated solution has initial growth in the market with some identified KPIs, and also having the ability to attract additional resources, like, for example, money or work equity. So then we use the accelerator term to describe a specific set of programs which typically have the following characteristics in common. So there is, like an application process that is open to all, yet highly competitive. There is provision of pre-seed investment, usually in exchange for equity. a focus on small teams, not individual founders. The support is time limited and usually between 3 to 6 months, and then there is also cohorts or classes of startups rather than individual companies. And then the expected outcome is that we have startups with a strong focus on growth, showing strong KPIs like growth in users or customer revenue growth and or market traction in a big and fast growing target market. Then they can and want to grow very, very fast, and basically they also have the ability, like more like strong ability now to attract also significant funding. And then of course they are able to hire people and improve quality and implementing processes. And I would say that not all accelerators are the same. They are created, of course, for different reasons, and therefore have different missions. Like, for example, you can have venture-backed accelerators. Typically, is to provide like a better deal flow for investors. Or you can also have a government-backed accelerator that basically it is established with the goal of local economic development. You can also have like a corporate sponsor accelerator to basically to help tackle specific research issues, or sometimes just to develop an ecosystem around a specific or core technology. Then to the question of why to consider an acceleration program, and we can look at it also from two perspectives. So from the accelerator perspective, for a venture capitalist looking for deal flow, accelerators with will typically compete with other methods of scouting for deals, such as exploiting personal networks or building relationships with notable entrepreneurs and professional service providers, scouting universities or attending pitching events, and so on. And that said, also the potential benefits of the accelerator model include, like, the opportunity to scout and filter talent, the potential to build a pipeline of investable companies, the chance to invest smaller amounts of money into a range of startups, and also the chance to provide hands-on support, guidance, and information, and to connect startups with strategic resources, and so forth. And then for a corporate, for example, with a mission to promote ecosystem development or technical innovation, the benefits of running an accelerator will need to be basically adjusted. So this basically might include in-house research and development, or open innovations, or mergers and acquisitions, or corporate venturing, proof of concept funds, and collaborate research, challenges prices, and so on. And for a public body or government agency with a mission to promote local economic growth, an accelerator will likely be assessed against a very broad range of options, including, direct grants and mentorship and business advice, business parks, co-working spaces, and much more. And then from the staff team perspective, there are several reasons why accelerator programs may fit to them. So basically, they provide, initial funding to help get one's idea off the ground. or they offer access to experienced mentors. They usually provide opportunities to connect with potential customers and investors. The cohort structure encourages peer learning and support. And they are also looking at somehow at the intensity of the program. So basically the intensity gives startups the chance to really develop the idea very fast. And some examples of acceleration programs are like, as you may know, so for example, the Y Combinator or Techstars and Startup Bootcamp, for example. But of course, there are many of those. Okay, so those were the basics. So now let's start with some global standards for incubation programs. And let's start with key things to consider related to setting up and running an incubation program. So first of all, the implementation of an incubation program has to respond to a specific need or market failure, like for example, a weak linkages between R&D centers and businesses in general, or inadequate support structures for high growth companies, or underdeveloped entrepreneurial culture, or just a combination of many of them. So therefore, during the planning phase of your incubation program, it is very important that the demand for an incubator service is tested, so that its role and mission can be defined. And if we assume that there are positive conclusions for implementation, so basically that the research was positive for you to basically to move forward, then the outcome should be like a business plan setting out the rationale of the project. So why an incubation program is needed, the target market, the expected levels of demand, a detailed operating framework in terms of infrastructures and the kind of services that you are going to provide. Also, some estimation around the capital investment and some estimation around costs and sources of funds, and how the incubator will be managed and other factors. So just to get like a really good picture and detailed view about what is needed to implement the incubation program based on real facts. Then, when there is a real need for an incubation program, then it is key to understand the role of the incubation program. So what is the mission? So as you know, incubators are not standalone entities, so they belong to the ecosystem, and any incubator should be designed to support and be part of a broader strategic framework or plan, either territorially oriented or focus on particular policy priorities, like for example, the development of clusters, or even a combination of factors like industry and geographically. And therefore, they have to basically work alongside other organizations that are also contributing to that strategic plan that typically is aimed to involve incubators to act as a kind of link between the centers of R&D and businesses, and commercializing R&D and helping to develop the supply chains for industrial clusters, promoting SMEs competitiveness, and in some cases, incubators have like a more specialized role, like for example, addressing social inclusion by, for example, helping disadvantaged communities to engage in entrepreneurial activity, or promoting other territorially focused priorities. So then the incubation programs should be promoted by an inclusive partnership of public and private sector stakeholders. And this means that incubators are typically promoted by a wide range of organizations from the public and private sectors, including local authorities, universities, companies, and financial institutions. And specifically, the public sector authorities have an important leadership function and can provide, I would say, key and enough investment during the development phase of the incubator. However, leveraging private sector support is important both from a financial perspective, but also in terms of support in kind, like, for example, management resources and expertise. And similarly, if the incubator's role is linked to the development of industrial clusters, then the involvement of large companies and universities will be important in promoting an incubator's role in the transfer and diffusion of technology and development of local supply chains. In terms of the sources of finance typically used during the setup phase, typically the majority of the financing comes from the public sources, which may come from different levels, like having like a mix or a combination, a mixed funding coming from, you know, national or regional and local authorities. Also, it may come from international agencies and also from local private sponsorships. And if we look at the incubation program from operational perspective, so the highest proportion of cost is related to a staff, followed by the client services, the maintenance of buildings and equipment, and other costs such as utilities. And the main source of income to recover a significant proportion of this cost comes mainly from rental income from tenants, but also, and I would say this is important to highlight, that a high level of dependence on rental income can have like a negative consequence, and I will tell you why. So during the initial launching phase of an incubator, the need to achieve a high level of occupancy as soon as possible in order to maximize income may lead to basically to the incubator's admission criteria being relaxed to the point where also tenants are accepted on a first come, first serve basis, and really this can take the focus away from the real mission of the incubation program. Then when it comes to the incubation program functions, the provision of physical space is central to the incubator model, and global standards basically recommend to have enough space to accommodate around 18 or 20 companies at one time, while also trying to keep the incubator at around 85% of occupancy, just to make sure that you have enough flexibility to allow companies to move between stages of the incubation process as long as they are developing and growing. And at the same time, the demand for virtual services, specifically in the moment we all are living, becomes more and more relevant, basically to facilitate networking and to enable other key services like, for example, mentoring, training, etc. Then the value added of incubator operations lies increasingly in the type and quality of business support services provided. So they are, I would say, based on global best practices, There are 4 key areas like innovation entrepreneurship training, which is often part of the pre-incubation process. It is also one key area, the business advice, financial support, and also technology support. So the incubator management team may provide some of these services themselves, or if specialized services are needed, or there are insufficient in-house resources, basically then they may rely on networking with other organizations. And related to the services that are offered, I would say that business incubators should also charge clients for the support services they provide, but the level at which prices are paid should be also designed to minimize, the risk of unfair competition. Then the more successful startups, the more successful incubators are the ones that have like a particular technology and business focus. A focus of this type enables incubators managers to develop specialized knowledge and skills, and also facilitate the clustering of client companies, like, for example, enables business relationships to develop between incubators tenants. So some of the main criteria to screen projects for admission are, for example, that there is a document describing at high level the plan of the company. Sometimes it's also good to have some initial financing in place. Of course, the project has to be innovative, with basically must have like high growth, and definitely, and this is really important, but it's not like really mandatory, is to at least to have initial team of 2 or 3 entrepreneurs and that will work with you in the idea. Then, as we said earlier, achieving high occupancy levels in the incubator very quickly is desirable from the point of view of income generation, but again can have disadvantages in terms of being able to basically to have different focus and missions. Similarly, there is a danger that the selective approach to admitting projects will be, abandoned in favor of, as I said earlier, first come, first served approach, and sufficient demand based on selective admission criteria for incubator space should exist if proper market research is undertaken as part of the incubator planning stage. And similar considerations apply to the question of exit rules. So most incubators limit the length of time companies can remain as tenants, typically around 3 to 5 years. So additionally, in many cases, companies move on to new locations because they need, more space to grow. And graduated rentals rising to above market rates after a given period of time is another method that a number of incubators adopt to encourage firms to move on. And at the same time, highly specialized incubators, like, for example, in the verticals like biotechnology and similar, may have longer tenancy periods for the clients, because it reflects then the nature of the business activities. So more about incubation functions. So the graduate retention is important in ensuring that incubator operations have long-term benefits to the areas where they are located, and in that sense, the provision of aftercare services to graduates is therefore critical to ensuring sustainable incubator impacts and continue networking between graduates and incubators can be really beneficial to the tenants, like for example, through mentoring relationships. And then the quality of the management team and an adoption of I would say, business-like approach to running incubators and monitoring clients is also crucial, and it is a best practice in this field, and it is becoming like more like a standard. So many, for example, in Europe, many incubators typically have around 5 to 6 people in the staff, with senior personnel coming from also business background. A key, I would say, a key efficiency indicator is the ratio between the staff and companies, and the existing ratio would appear to be like one person from the staff for every 3 tenants, and this also gives like a good idea or a good view about what is needed to basically to scale an incubation program. If you want to have more startups, then it really doesn't help to extend the staff, and the relationship basically is not linear. So therefore, it is also interesting to look at digital to find ways to scale more efficiently by implementing and making use of digital services that can bring, more automation to remove the human factor, and then use the human factor and to put them focus on basically on providing more added value for the tenants. Then when it comes to evaluating incubator services and impacts, and given the fact that different type of incubators are increasingly offering very similar core services, then it makes sense to classify incubators based on the technology knowledge intensity of the startups that are incubated, being this the key factor that should be used to basically to differentiate one type of incubator from another. Then the performance of incubation programs should be judged primarily in terms of the results achieved, specifically in terms of the long-term impacts achieved rather than short-term measures such as occupancy rates or failure rates. Employment, I would say that employment effects is a key indicator for public authorities, and in that sense, as we said earlier, it is key to encourage graduates to remain in the area, and equally important is also the need to ensure that local people, I would say, have the education and training needed to take advantage of new employment opportunities in the incubators companies. So then, when assessing the impact of the incubation programs, it really requires monitoring the startups and building collaborations with other support organizations that are serving those startups in later stages. And traditional approaches like relying just on survey data coming from the incubator managers alone is not really like a good practice. So I would say that more objective data coming from the interactions between the startups and other actors should be collected to get basically a sense of the evolution from market and organization perspective. So how they have been growing the company from those 2 dimensions. Then if we have learned something about this COVID situation, is that incubators and allies have shown that the business incubation process can operate successfully on a virtual basis, and opening a lot of, I would say, opportunities to extend the number of incubated companies, and also demonstrating that the real value added of the business incubation approach lies essentially in the sharing of the know-how rather than the physical aspects like the space. Of course, I'm not saying that space is not relevant, but is more important than the knowledge sharing transfer aspect. Then when we evaluate incubation programs performance, it is important to know that while most incubators share basic features in common, there are also significant difference relating to stakeholders' objectives, target markets, and the precise configuration of incubators, facilities, and services. So this difference are partly a reflection of location-specific factors of a cultural, institutional, and policy nature. And it is important that these local factors are taken into account in defining best practice, and therefore specific modalities must necessarily be a question for local judgment. Also, when looking at evaluating the services and impact, it is also important to know that there should be enough focus in one hand on specific functions or areas, like, for example, company financing or management functions or entrepreneurial training, but also we have, the integration component. I mean, how the incubator is part of a broader strategy and how it is impacting at ecosystem level, and also helping any company to navigate within the ecosystem. So then, as a kind of, sort of summary, I'm listing here with a couple of slides some best practices that should be taken into account when setting up and running an incubation program. So incubators should be basically encouraged to benchmark themselves against best practices standards and to take the steps required to achieve them, and basically in seeking to achieve best practices at operational level. And particular attention should be basically given to ensuring that incubator operations are integrated into wider regional development strategies and supported by broadly based partnerships. It's also important to take into account that clearly defining the target market and adopting admission criteria that focus on projects where an incubator can genuinely add value. Then placing particular emphasis on developing high quality business support services, like specifically for those areas that we mentioned earlier, like innovation, entrepreneurship training, business advice, technology support, financing, etc. Also key to ensuring that incubators are managed in a business-like manner with the aim of maximizing value for money, and developing virtual incubation services is also key, so that more businesses can benefit, and also through aftercare graduate networking to ensure that job and wealth creation effects are retained in local economies. So then it's also important to do benchmarking and best practice sharing, specifically on key service areas like, again, innovation, entrepreneurship training, business support, financing, and technology support. And for all of these areas, basically to consider digital as a cross-cutting theme to bring more, I would say, more scalability and efficiency to the incubation program. Another good practice is that incubators should be encouraged to periodically undertake impact assessments, and in that sense, it is key that some level of standardization and coordination is in place to help identify best practices in a standardized way, to develop a common methodology based in best practices and agree on one or more piloting exercise to basically to define which is the best way to proceed. And then a further priority should be for incubators reduce their dependence on the public subsidies and become more sustainable. And for this, two options appear to have like considerable like, for example, one of them is to have enough income generation and then also income coming from investment in client companies. And then, of course, there is a big need to professionalize the occupation of incubator management. So we tend to basically, when visiting other ecosystems, we tend to identify globally that the quality of management team is a key thing to basically to make your incubator activity succeed. And in many cases, the staff is not really well prepared to provide incubation services. As I said in the beginning of the presentation, in BIA provides some recognized professional qualification in this field, but a key aspect is also to have, that entrepreneurial experience. I mean, it is important, I would say, that the staff has the knowledge and understanding of the startup journey, and as such can effectively coach and support and guide new talent and entrepreneurs along the way, and also guide them towards deeper knowledge and resources and sources in general to learn any key topic in more detail. But in any case, at national level, and this is more like a sort of message for smart capital and similar actors. So there should be a collaborative and systematic exercise to, I would say, develop a standard around incubation management to enhance the occupation, to attract more and better quality staff, to improve incubator operations, to increase also the mobility of managers between incubators, and to implement best practices sharing, and to basically evaluate performance and impacts. Okay, so I will stop here and check if we already have like some questions from the audience relating to this first part of the presentation. Farah, do we have any questions?
Yes, I'm waiting for, we have participant on the Zoom call, and I'm waiting to see if we have any questions on the Zoom or maybe on Facebook. So if you have any questions, please send us in the chat, or you can raise your hand to talk. Zoom call and sorry, I'm checking Facebook. Seems clear. We don't have questions so far.
Sometimes, it's like very tricky. You don't know if it was very clear or they didn't understand anything.
For me, it was clear so far. No, it was clear for me so far. It was very detailed. So we can, if we don't have questions on the Zoom call, maybe we can carry on with the presentation, and at the end we can see if you have questions.
Okay, good. Yeah. So then
Thanks,
let's continue with the. Okay.
Sorry, I think we do have questions.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Okay, we have Hela. Hela is asking what kind of KPIs we should consider for an incubator.
That's a good question, Hela, and it really depends on which part of the incubation program you want to basically to focus on or measure. So there should be KPIs related to basically how your own staff is performing. That can basically get by basically ask the tenants that are taking part in your incubation program if they are receiving the right services. A similar approach can also be applied to like those organizations or partners that are collaborating with the incubation program and so forth. So and then if you are looking more at KPIs related to the growth of the startup that is hosted in your incubation program, then as I said in the presentation, you should look more at how the company is evolving from those two dimensions. So how much progress they are doing on the product side or in the market side. So that is more related to the kind of initial validations that they are getting from the market, or how clear is for the startup the problem that they have identified in the market, and how big is the market that they are trying to serve with the solution that they have in mind. But then also specific KPIs related to the team of the company. So how committed is the team, and how they are looking together, and how balanced is the team. So is the team having the key skills or the key profiles that are needed to develop, like in this case, like for example, a digital solution. So these are the kind of things that maybe from the startup perspective should be taken into account when to look at the KPIs.
Okay, thanks, Oscar. That was really clear.
Yes.
I don't see any other questions.
Okay.
So we're good to go.
Okay, so let's then continue. Okay, so then let's jump to the acceleration program topic, in which we are mainly looking at covering the key aspects of creating and running an accelerator. So those aspects or areas are like, mission. So what will your accelerator do? The focus area or specialization, like will it have a specific focus? We will also cover the funding structure. So how will the accelerator be funded, and what funding will you offer to the startups? Then another thing is attracting talent. So how will you recruit good startups for your acceleration program? Also around selecting a startup. So how will you manage the selection process? Then we also have the program package. So what support will you offer startups? The access to networks, or what networks will you connect them to? The alumni service and post-program support. So how will you support startups once the program has ended? Then, of course, we have the measurement aspect. So how will you track the impact of your program? And last but not least, the digital component. So how to use in general digital for different purposes, like for example, data collection or operational efficiency and so forth. the main I would say the main objective of accelerators is to accelerate startup development through a combination of financial support, guidance, or training. However, the type of startups they work with and exactly how they support them will depend on on their strategic focus and the area in which they work. So in short, different strategic objectives require, different formats, and this means that being clear on the mission of your accelerator is a crucial first step in developing your program. So therefore, different types of accelerator founders will have different objectives, and the most common examples are, so the venture-backed accelerators, which typically focus on creating deal flow for investors. Then we also have the government-backed accelerators, which normally aim to stimulate local economic development or achieve social or environmental impact. And then also we have the corporate sponsor accelerator, which often tackle specific research issues to or help develop an ecosystem around a core technology. So some accelerators will also combine these approaches. So therefore, I would say that defining your own strategy objectives and then assessing how different accelerator approaches compare should help you to evaluate if an accelerator program is appropriate way for you to fulfill your mission. And then for that exercise, it's important to wonder at least these three questions. Like, for example, what are the unmet needs that your accelerator would work towards meeting? Or how would the accelerator model help in meeting these needs? And who else is already providing incubation support in this area? Another factor to consider is whether your accelerator will concentrate on a particular industry or take on a wider mix of startups. So because as the number of accelerators has grown, and their overall scope and objectives have, I would say, broadened, and they now span sectors including health and food and finance and education and so forth. So therefore, specialization can be a way of differentiating your particular program, specifically as the accelerator market becomes more and more crowded, and I would say that having a unique selling point can help attract the right startups and investors. And for insights into specific industries, so accelerators typically partner up with relevant industry players, including executives and external experts. And this means that if you do specialize, then it's important to have access to basically to a really credible and trustful network. So therefore, like, three key questions that you need to reply are for this specific area is: does your mission require an accelerator with a specific focus or a broader approach? Or why will startups come to you rather than other accelerators? And what will be your unique selling proposition for investors? Then it is always a good exercise to have a clear idea of cost structure and revenue streams from the acceleration program, meaning that it's important to consider how much it will cost you to run your accelerator and what resources will be required to reach your objectives, what key resources you will need to run the program, what will your key activities be, and what funding will you need to support this, and who might your potential partners be in setting up your accelerator, and what might your revenue stream look like. So the type of funding that supports an accelerator is often closely connected to its missions. So privately backed accelerators can be funded by corporates and or private investors. So those are Those that are financed by business angels or venture capital funds or corporate venture capital usually have profit incentives. Corporate accelerators are usually funded on a yearly basis, and there is often no profit incentive or finance available to startups. And instead, startups are provided with access to potential customers. Public funding may come from local, national, or international schemes. So there has been a rise in these programs as governments and foundations increasingly view accelerators as an additional tool to also to boost economic development. For example, I think that in Europe we have the climate KIC, which focuses specifically on climate change, and it was launched by the European Commission around 2010. And you know, this is a new and evolving area. The design of basically the design of this type of accelerated public funding is particularly important if basically these programs are basically to have some kind of long-term impact. So policymakers typically have regional development and employment as an objective, but these are challenging objectives to meet in the short or even the medium term. And as a result, a funding program that lasts only 1 year, for example, may not give the accelerator enough time to build a significant traction in its local market. Then when it comes to also to the investment model, the core business model of investment-driven accelerators is I would say quite straightforward. So funders and investors invest in the acceleration program, which then acts as a small fund. So some part of the fund goes on the cost of running the acceleration program, while some of the fund also is invested into startups that are accepted into the program. So the acceleration program usually take equity in the startups and hope to make I would say a return on those shares. So some programs take ordinary shares, while others prefer what's called a convertible note, which offers a discount on a stock should the company raise further funding. And others have like a clause that makes the investment into a soft loan to be returned if certain conditions are met. And the equity taking varies, but around 5 to 10% is the average for most accelerators. Pitching this too high will basically obviously make it harder to attract a quality intake, and could make the startup are less attractive to investors. And the ultimate goal for this investor-driven program is that the startups mature into quality investment cases, and accelerators therefore have no constant inflow of revenue, and investment in companies can take, you know, several years to generate I would say a sizable return. In addition, some also accelerators have developed their offering to create extra revenue streams and providing them basically because of that with more opportunities to invest in a startup. So some examples are like that. So for example, selling the expertise and accelerator model to top tier firms, as for example Techstars is doing, or introducing a paid learning program like that accelerator is doing in I think it's in France, or running a profitable event planning business as Paris-based accelerator The Family has done by organizing dozens of meetups for the French tech community, or simply renting out desks in a co-working space, as Startup Bootcamp has done in London and Berlin. Then another key aspect is how to attract the most promising startups team to your acceleration program, and also other stakeholders. And for this, it is also key to develop a strong brand, but doing this is something of a virtuous cycle. So choosing the best companies will lead to good results, which will then attract good investors, which will in turn basically lead to strong applications. So these are basically different ways where multiple organizations, stakeholders, and basically channels can be used to attract startups to your application in the acceleration program. So we have referrals from entrepreneurs, we have investors, we have entrepreneurial associations, universities, industries, and so forth. Just have a look at those main aspects to attract startups. But it is important to keep in mind that the quality of applications is by far more important than the quantity. So attracting startups without growth potential or entrepreneurs for whom the accelerator has nothing to offer will be of no use at all. And therefore, targeted marketing and clear messages and communications about the program's criteria, what it offers, and to whom is very key. Then choosing the startups to incubate or to accelerate is one of the most important factors in the success of any accelerator. So pursuing the wrong type of venture basically will lead to a failure. And matching accelerator services to the needs of companies of startups is particularly important, since new venture activity and business support needs vary between regions, industries, prior entrepreneurial experience, and so on. So this means that accelerators should also vary accordingly. So when it comes to the selection process, so most accelerators spend between 1 to 3 months recruiting each cohort, although many spend also longer on the process. So this investment of time is quite necessary, and thanks to the complexity involved in identifying, early stage ideas or ventures with great potential. So in this point, business plans, for example, are usually of little interest or value when assessing very young startups. When a venture is pre-revenue or pre-customer, and often without a clear or central value proposition, so any numbers are at best simply guesswork, and instead it's more, I would say, important to focus on the quality of the team, or the quality idea of the idea, which are basically becomes more like a key factor to select the startups. Accelerator programs also use a wide variety of methods for selection, ranging from a simple 2 stages process to a more rigorous and detailed multi-staged process. And the application period typically focuses around key dates and is backed by basically by press coverage and also good marketing. Then when it comes to the applications itself, they usually happen online through the accelerator's own software platform or others, such, for example, f6s.com or angel.co. So some programs such as Startup Bootcamp and Climate KIC go one step further and actively scout at the startup events before the application period. And initially, the acceleration management team then uses these submitted forms to assess all applicants on the quality of their idea, their experience, and their knowledge of the problem. And then when it comes to the interviews, after short listing the applications that they receive, preliminary virtual meetings can be very helpful to learn more about the applicants. So following on from this, especially organized selection days that involve startups having face-to-face interviews and being asked to pitch and present their business. So in each stage, experts from outside the acceleration program can interact in the screening process as, I would say, individual advisors. The use of a selection committee is also a common practice, and this mostly comprise strategic partners, investors, and in some cases even alumni and experts or mentors. Basically, interviews can take around an hour, or it can be also shorter, like 20 minutes, depending on the information that is shared. And also, I would say that interviews between the acceleration program and the startups can be very useful for basically to check the chemistry between the founders. Like, for example, do they interrupt each other when they are talking, or do they know what each person in the team is meant to be doing? So this can be like a really early warning signs of potential problems, as later stage investors will look for a team that basically connects. And I would say that existing research indicates that, for example, most European acceleration programs select between 5 and 15 companies per cohort. So in this slide, you can see like a simple selection process from Techstars London. And the main criteria that they have to access the acceleration program is that the startup has to be very highly focused on team and opportunity, looking for basically for full-time funding team. So a lot of team focus, team background and dynamics, and also some kind of prototype is required. And then the Techstars selection process has essentially these 4 steps. So first of all, there is like an online application via F6S application software platform, asking for a description of the business or by referral through affiliated investors. Then we have a step where the applications are reviewed by the core team accelerator to basically to select like the 70 or 80 most promising startups. Then there are different interviews between the accelerator's core team and external experts, basically experts review to reduce the selection to between, I would say, 20 or 30 teams for final selection. And then as a final step, we have the face-to-face interview with a selection committee made up of the accelerator's core team, who then select, and I would say, the top 10 startups. Then every accelerator aims to provide the support and training necessary to grow its startups into market-ready ventures. So each accelerator needs to consider its offering carefully. So what will give it a unique selling proposition, and how will it be ensure that its startups are receiving maximum support, information, and advice. So the majority of accelerators have adapted and developed their services and their programs structure, and most programs, I would say, that offer co-working spaces, so regular interactions with the management team, so networking opportunities, training programs, and of course, demo days. Then one of the most valuable aspects of any acceleration program is access to its mentors network. So for example, Techstars mentorship model is like the global reference for most accelerators because mentors are rigorously screened on their background before entry and are typically serial entrepreneurs. So they provide their time and expertise on a voluntary basis as part of the field's paid forward culture that they have. Some are, I would say, ad hoc mentors. Some have a long-term commitment, and while others also even invest, and they usually receive that nickname as business angels in disguise. Also, the quality of mentors are typically assessed through feedback surveys completed by the startups. Increasingly, mentors and mentees are matched through speed dating or matchmaking events, which enable teams and mentors to quickly find out if there is any chemistry between them. And also accelerators using these methods tend to bring everyone together in a room and divide, mentors into groups to circulate and around and with the different teams. And these groups have to basically 10 minutes to pitch what they do to each other before moving on. And while this can be sometimes a bit chaotic, it also helps basically to train and your pitching. Then there are also other options for structuring, the mentoring relationship, like for example, office hours, or for example, peer mentoring. And in any case, the quality and commitment of mentors is one of the, most important drivers of accelerator success. So most of the biggest accelerators are highly selective of the mentors they work with and recruit them on referral only. And if the feedback is not sufficiently positive, then the accelerator doesn't work with that mentor again. I have also added this slide to bring more details about the kind of hot topics that should be covered. Like for example, specifically in this area, like market strategy or business development, A/B testing, marketing, product validation, or how to scale sales teams, or KPIs that you need to look at, or revenue models, and because and those can be covered by specific training sessions, mentor sessions, master classes, etc. Then startups don't need investment alone. Investment is important, but also is really important the access to market. So successful accelerator programs have or can create access to key customer networks, both nationally and internationally. So startups also often struggle to access networks of investors, and accelerators attempt to cultivate strong relationships with investors, not simply as providers of capital, but also as the right kind of investors who understand the investment landscape and who will participate in their investments in the right way. And then the demo days are the most obvious way accelerators connect startups with potential investors. And while it's, I would say, rare for investors to write checks at events, they play an important role in preparing ventures for investment at a later stage. Even if investors don't want to invest immediately, they can often be a successful source of advice and connections for the startups involved. Basically, also the investors demo days have evolved and often combine an interactive format such as mini board meetings or speed dating as a way of getting the startups used to talking to investors, while also enabling the investors themselves to get a better feeling for the team. So once the startups graduate from an accelerator program, companies are still in need of support. So therefore, it makes sense that most offer some sort of post-program support to maintain and enhance startup investment or even acquisition viability for as long as possible. So the type of post-program support on offer typically include like public relations opportunities, connections with investors, board participation, HR or recruitment support, regional meetups, and so forth. So all accelerators, I would say that acknowledge the alumni network as a valuable asset of the program, and they basically maintain an alumni database because it is a priority for them. And there is also this kind of phenomenon of also recycling founders, where startups taking unsuccessful alumni as a member of their own team if they consider them to be of value. Okay, so then another key challenge area for accelerator is around measuring impact, and common metrics collected and published so far include a number of applications to programs, number of venture support, follow-on investment raised by ventures, and survival rate of ventures, and number of employees of ventures. I believe that more attention should be paid to defining performance and metrics for success, but this is particularly difficult given that not all accelerators have the same goal. So then it's because it's quite hard to compare acceleration programs with different missions and objectives. And also part of the challenge comes from the fact that accelerator data has not been basically routinely published. So as a startup themselves, accelerators often lack the time and resources for those measurements. And so with limited data available, the impact of individual accelerator methods is difficult basically to judge. However, with the number of accelerator programs growing, and the push for transparency has become more intense, in a much more competitive field. Startups want to compare, programs, and existing and potential funders want to see the track record of programs before offering their support. And now, for example, many accelerators are now starting to publish results openly, like, for example, Techstars, that provides a full breakdown of the companies that it supports on its website, and makes an attempt to measure its impact through job creation and average funding per company. And then finally, we have the digital dimension. So accelerators, and also that also applies to incubators, can't escape from digital transformation for revamping the digital strategy, objectives, models, operations, products, services, marketing approach, etc., by adopting digital technologies. This basically improves services, accelerates processes, and expands the abilities of organizations, helping them maintain, relevance and competitiveness in this new digital economy, which is very global. From my point of view, I would say that digital transformation in the context of ecosystem development is all about enabling information sharing and flow of data between systems to enable and manage connections for key and between stakeholders, and to basically compile information on startups across different channels, interactions, and points of contact between startups, support organizations, and stakeholders along the way. So digital solutions should basically focus on connectivity and enable data about ecosystem activities and processes to flow in real time using ecosystem level user accounts and common APIs run on cloud infrastructure and databases, because these enable basically to track business creation through various development phases from formation, validation to scale, and also help to track support provider services for volume, quality, and velocity. And digitally connected applications can also share relevant data across various ecosystem functions and processes for economic development, or for universities, or for support service management and operative teams, investors, banks, innovators in general, etc. So therefore, accelerators and other support organizations should invest in platforms and systems to basically to encourage and enable quality data collection from the companies, from the startups you support, with target basically with target to collect data from all the companies that apply to programs, even the ones that are not accepted or do not receive services, and truly work together between ecosystem actors for data sharing and to track progress and growth over the medium to long term, as the impact of accelerator support can take, several years to materialize. So therefore, as a best practice, it is key that accelerators and others can partner, for example, with academic institutions and industry associations to develop stronger data collection systems. And to make this happen, it's also key at ecosystem level to build a common language around building ventures, to build an open standard to name ecosystem items in a consistent way that contributes to document organizations, services, processes, etc., in a standardized way, so that information can be truly shared, and therefore to enable interoperability between any information systems. So in my view, the ecosystem that is able to develop such digital architecture would be able to learn faster, to adapt faster, and accelerate the development of the ecosystem. And this is not yet a best practice, obviously, because it is something that it is now starting, but definitely will be a new game changer for ecosystem development. And the only thing that is needed, and that is my personal view, is like a bit of leadership from ecosystem builders and from those organizations that have to develop the whole ecosystem, because we are always asking entrepreneurs to be leaders to make their company succeed. So shouldn't we ask the ecosystem builders and related actors to also behave like entrepreneurs? So shouldn't they have the guts to put the right things in place to make their ecosystem easier for anyone to land, navigate, and connect and progress? So I think that is fair, right? So then, continuing with the digital aspect, I also believe that it makes sense to bring to this conversation some example of digital services that can bring more efficiency for incubators, accelerators, and at ecosystem level in general, because again, many of the activities that are already happening to support startups are done very manually. And one of them is this use case we are presenting here. So many factors go into a successful startup, such as market need, financing, or a viable business model and marketing. However, finding the right team, specifically the right co-founder or co-founders, is a crucial step at early phases between -1 and 2. And picking the wrong co-founder is one of the most common reasons why startups fail. And there are different basically factors that should be taken into account when you are looking at finding the right co-founder. You should look at the temperament, you should look at the skills, the past experience, the kind of working patterns that you may have, the basically some things related to the personality, the kind of shared values and principles that you may have, etc. So right now, this finding the ideal co-founder can be a long process, and quite often is very ineffective. Startup events and groups have people interested in startups, so you have to find a suitable one or for your startup who has what your team needs. So domain-specific groups like developer networks or industry-focused events have plenty of those people with the skills and interests you might be looking for, and you have to find the ones interested in joining a startup. So it is really tough process. And we at the Startup Commons, for example, we are addressing that co-founder matching challenge, and we are, for example, developing a prototype for automatic recommendation matching system based on the current individuals' information available in the different channels and platforms, and employing machine learning techniques basically to do the matching. So maybe we are not able to do like the perfect matching for you, but at least we will be able to shortlist the search, which makes a big difference considering the time. That time is basically the most precious resource that we have, entrepreneurs. Or for example, another example is this SDP classifier, which is an API service for doing automatic AI driven startup development phases labeling for startup events and services and organizations. And we essentially, basically with this solution, try to improve the effectiveness of the startup events by connecting them with the right audience at the right time of development. Then another example is Hippo Radar. So it's a solution by the company Global Enabler, and basically Hippo Radar is a digital tool for mass screening, rating, and shortlisting of startups for funding and support. And this is a common task that usually may take a month, and it is, I would say, quite biased due to basically how investors make decisions. And with this solution, it takes basically a couple of hours for each team member to make the investment readiness of the startup, and it is not really it is basically unbiased. And as I said, these are just simple examples that can help you understand why digital is so much needed for incubator and acceleration programs operations. But if we have learned again something from this COVID period, is that in-person and virtual approaches are needed basically, and therefore have to work and be combined. And a clear example of this is when in 2020, so last year, we opened our whole innovation entrepreneurship curriculum for free for everyone, basically to create more opportunities to everyone during the COVID pandemic. So we open all our e-learning assets around what is needed basically to create a startup from ideation phase to growth. And beyond the statistics, yeah, you can see in the slide. So the most important thing for us was to understand how this online service works. So the first thing to consider is that building capacity development for innovation and entrepreneurship is not an easy topic. So these are like really very complex topics, and that cannot be simply learned from X number of sessions at a level where those would be memorized and internalized for a longer term. So then, instead of one-time training of a group of entrepreneurs, the digital allows you to make such knowledge and training permanently available to all current and future entrepreneurs in such way that they can revisit any of the topics learned as many times as needed in the future, and also be able to discuss these topics based on having consumed same validated knowledge. So therefore, digital extends the ability, reach, repeats. Basically, it's suitable for evergreen and holistic in systematic way, and also offering a structure as a tangible product with 24/7 access to it, and also to see what exactly is being collaborated, developed, and improved. So that is something that can be done. And also with this digital approach, of course, you get statistics from measuring and insights, like, for example, who is consuming, gender statistics about age, profile, from where they are consuming, what modules are consuming, and topics, and how often, and so forth. So then combine that e-learning content with in-person approach to basically to offer deeper and more specific tone and topic weight adjustments depending on the audience, depending also on the culture and the language, etc., while also allows you to elaborate further beyond the e-learning content, provide additional training exercise, and connect with additional deeper expertise or tools and resources, etc. So therefore, the key here is basically to really explore the benefit of both worlds, the online and in person, and make them to work together in sync, and not as something that something competing. So that is also really important to take into account when you are looking at implementing your own services, your own support services for incubation, for incubators or accelerators. So try to also to look at how where the in-person aspect brings more value, where the digital aspect brings more value, and how both should be combined to basically provide like a really great experience for entrepreneurs and startups that are consuming your services. So yeah, so that's it. So I think that I have covered all the topics that we plan to do for today. So now I'm happy to take because we also have some time for Q&A. So happy to take questions.
Yes, we do. I think we do have question. So Sofiane is asking, do you recommend any specific software to manage workflow of an incubator? All aspects included funding, fundraising, administrative finance, HR, all that, etc.
Yes. There are existing solutions around that. I to be honest, I don't remember those names, but I'm happy to also to provide after the webinar, so you can also sharing with them. The most important thing here to consider is also that I think that there is no one tool that fits all the aspects of the acceleration program. So that basically means that you have to have like a specific tool for, applications. You have to have a specific tool for investment side, and so forth. So the most important thing also when you consider that, and that is not a problem to have different tools, the most important thing is also to implement a solution where those applications can also talk to each other. and just basically to automate and bring more efficiency at operative level.
Good. And we have another question from Hela, and she wants to know how to determine the time length of an acceleration program, whether it's a 3, 4, or 6 months.
Yeah, typically, I think that we mentioned in the presentation, typically something between 3 to 4 months. But that's something that I would say that can be adjusted. So the most important thing is that also that you create like a program that can help you achieve or can help startups achieve the outcomes or the objectives that they are looking at. It may take 2 months, it may take 3 months, it may take 4 months, but the key here is that in that specific period of time, the startups are so exposed and the kind of they are kind of exposed to that such of intensive experience that they feel after that program that they have made like a huge progress and from the main components of the startup. So from the market side, from the team side, but also that depends on the nature of the accelerator. So some of them are more focused on the product side, they are more focused on market validation and so forth. But again, the most important thing is that you define the objectives, you define the potential outcome, and then after that, the startup feels that they reach those objectives, and then the time, of course, it is an acceleration. It shouldn't take like 1 year, but they feel that intensity is very important.
Excellent. I don't know if we do have any questions. So if you would like, you can participate with us or you can write your questions. Okay, there's a question in the chat.
Yes.
And it's from, sorry, I can't read the name, but it's Larousi, and he's asking, I would like to ask, according to your experience, of course, about the rate of survival among the identified ideas, those who accomplished the whole process successfully, and the main reasons of failure.
Well, I'm not sure if I think that applies more to the incubation process, but there are many studies around that. I recently read one. I think it was mainly coming from Europe, that says something about that around 75 or 85% of companies that were through an incubation program, they were able to survive in the first 5 years, which are the most critical ones in the life of any startup company. But then I also have to say that it's also quite hard to relate the impact of an accelerator or an incubator to the survival of a company. It may happen many things around the startup journey, and some of those things may be related to the process of taking part in an acceleration program, but others are fully out of control, and then it's quite hard to identify those. So that's why, as I said in the beginning, it's important that a more collaborative approach at ecosystem level between the different ecosystem actors has to happen, because it's the only way to track and to really see how those startups are progressing, if they are succeeding or if they are failing. So we can only know that if we have like a collaborative approach with data sharing, objective data coming from the different actors, and then you start getting like a more clear picture about how startups are evolving and so forth.
Okay, I think Hala wants to ask another question. Hala, if you can write it in the chat. And Nordin is asking, what are the benefits of creating the alumni network? Is it a follow through with success or eventual failure?
Yeah, so the alumni can be seen from different angles. So one angle is to basically when you keep or you try to engage alumni with the acceleration program, for example, somehow you are trying to transfer the personal experience or personal knowledge taking part in that acceleration program with others that are new in that acceleration program. So it's more like, you know, knowledge sharing and experience sharing and so forth. And then it's also a good way to mainly to also identify potential mentors for your acceleration program. In reality, when you are having this kind of intensive experience working with startups, at the end of the day, you see how people work in practice, and then you get a good idea about, you know, how is that person and how they behave and how they perform and so forth. So then it's also like a sort of recruitment process for you also for your accelerator, and to basically to help them engage with this with that acceleration program.
We have the question from Hela is, does accelerators adopt expelling strategies for startups that don't meet the KPIs during the program? And if yes, what kind of expelling strategies do they adopt? This is a really big issue, I think, for some accelerators, incubators, when they are facing some candidates or startups.
Yeah, that's also a good question, because at the end of the day, incubators and accelerators have to focus on progress, on the startup progress. So if those, if you as a startup don't want to commit to provide those KPIs or those progress, what's the point of being there? So then I would say that I haven't looked at the specific contracts, but I would say that there should be a specific clause to basically to reject those from the acceleration process.
So it should be in the contract, a clause telling or saying if you don't meet such KPIs or within the 2 first months of your incubation/acceleration program,
Yes.
you would be leaving.
Yes, exactly. So that's my view. So because
yes,
it's like, you know, you are putting resources to help startups,
exactly,
but if they don't care about those, so why I do have to care about that? So so then I'm happy to care about others that are more interested in making progress and they take that process very seriously.
Absolutely. So I don't see any other questions for now, but I think during the session we covered how to set up an acceleration/incubator, how to run the main activities, and to have the tools to measure the impact. And also, I think we talked about making the SSOs or giving them the tools or the specific strategies to allow them to have a quality support for the startups. And we talked about some practices, best practices in the world. I think this is what we have seen during this session. This is our last session in Ins and Outs. I think we began the first with you, Oscar, and the last will be
yes, that's true.
with you. So this is really great. We are thankful for your participation. We would like to thank our partners, Expertise France, and I think if we don't have any other, we have a question. Okay, let's close with this question. Also from Hella, thank you, Hella, for the questions. Regarding the costs breakdown of an accelerator, according to your experience, what is the part of the marketing plan and the expenses, the expertise fees?
Okay. So I think that I cannot provide like specific details about that, but again, most of the expenses related to the acceleration program goes to the staff that is running the acceleration program, and the marketing. I would say that I really don't know the kind of what is the budget. So sometimes it's bigger in some places, sometimes is smaller. That really depends on how famous or how active you are, also in other from past editions, and but it really varies. So I basically I'm not able to give you like a specific amount about that.
Okay, thank you, Oscar. Once again,
Yes.
if you have a last word you would like to share with our spectators or people who are gonna watch again the live later.
Yes, of course.
Any advice?
So
Yes.
just to thank you again, the invitation to take part in this webinar series that you are organizing for the Tunisia startup ecosystem. We are happy to share with others what we are doing and how others are doing in different parts of the world. Happy to continue also the relationship. I think that my contact details should be distributed to anyone who wants to have like a more one-to-one conversation with me. I'm open with that. So, and then of course in our website we have a lot of open resources and free that basically caters for different ecosystem actors, like for business creators, for support organizations, for ecosystem builders. So feel free to navigate there. I know that sometimes it's quite hard because we have a lot of information and content there, but if you don't find anything, just reach out to me. I'm happy to help, and looking forward to seeing more of these webinars in the coming months. And yeah, so thanks a lot again for taking part in this.
Thanks a lot, Oscar. So this was ins and out of ecosystem building. We started the first with Oscar, and the last session will be with Oscar. As you heard, if you would like to be put in contact with Oscar, we would happily do so. Thanks again, Oscar, and have a nice day.
Yes, likewise. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
Ciao.